Here they come pouring out. Look at the size. Whoa! Look at them.
All right.
Wow, what a turnout.
We can begin. Okay. They're still coming, but we should begin. Good morning. House Democrats are here on the steps of the United States Capitol across from the Supreme Court to say to the Supreme Court and to the Senate, hands off women's reproductive health care. Yes. Last week, Americans saw a draft option showing the GOP-appointed court is poised to strike down Roe v. Wade, a 50-year precedent held up again by Casey. Already, Republicans across the nation are mobilizing around a dangerous and extreme agenda to criminalize all forms of reproductive health care, including IVF, contraception, and post-miscarriage care. Think of that. Just last week, Senate Republicans lined up in lockstep behind Mitch McConnell and Trump to vote to rip away the constitutional right to health freedom for American women. Now, they want a nationwide ban on abortion. They have said that. Make no mistake, once Republicans shred long-standing precedent and privacy rights, they intend to wage an all-out assault on more of our rights, including access to contraception and marriage equality. As Republicans seek to control and criminalize women's reproductive health freedoms, Democrats are fighting to enshrine Roe v. Wade into law. Thank you to the pro-choice caucus led by Representative Diana DeGette and Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and for Representative Judy Chu, the author of the Women's Health Protection Act, for making, we were ready when Texas did what it did. It caused vigilantes to go after people who want to be healthy. Judy Chu was ready. We could take up the bill right away. Now, that was last fall. Americans are marching and making their voices heard. Public sentiment is everything. We will never stop fighting for patients and their healthcare providers to defend the rights of women and all Americans. And now I am pleased to yield to a champion for women's reproductive freedom, Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And let me thank you once again for your continued leadership in supporting our personal liberties, our constitutional personal liberties. And thank you so much for helping to lead this fight. Also, to all of our colleagues today, thank you so much for everything that you do each and every day to protect our democracy and our freedoms. Let's be clear, we are truly facing a crisis moment, with the Supreme Court seemingly poised to overturn Roe and extremists making clear that they won't stop. They won't stop until a nationwide abortion ban is enacted. We're facing an unprecedented attack on reproductive freedom. Everyone here shares the feelings of those across the country. We are angry, yes, that after 50 years of constitutional protections of our bodies, we are now yet again fighting for our rights.
Fighting for our rights.
This is personal for many of us. It's personal for me because I know firsthand what being denied access to legal abortion looks like. I have personally experienced the fear, the stigma, the trauma, the despair of being denied the care that you need. I know what it's like to have your medical decisions criminalized, to be forced to travel for the care that you need, and to see your future hang on the decisions of politicians rather than doctors. An entire generation of people have only known a world with protections under Roe. Now we know how extreme the Republicans are and the court and how extreme they are. And not one Republican senator voted to even consider legislation that protects our rights to make our own reproductive health decisions. They're totally out of step with the public, where 70% of people support personal liberty and freedoms to make their own personal decisions about their bodies. Now remember that they tell you that they care about personal freedom. Remember that, because they won't stop here. Our rights are under attack. And so as co-chair of the Pro-Choice Caucus, my colleagues and I will continue exploring every single legislative and administrative angle, leaving no stone unturned as we look for any immediate solutions to ease this crisis. And yes, we're going to continue putting pressure on the Senate to act to pass the Women's Health Protection Act. We're going to keep fighting for that. And let's not forget that abortion is still legal, though. The ruling is not final, even though we anticipate this to be the decision. So we must continue to fight. This weekend, people from around the country will be joining on the National Mall and in our districts to make their voices heard. And so I hope to see each and every one of our colleagues and the public at one of these rallies, because I know we're going to turn out en masse. We're not going to be denied the right to make decisions about our own bodies. We'll not stop fighting until everyone, and I mean everyone, has access to safe, legal, and accessible abortions, no matter their income, their zip code, or their race. Thank you again, and I'll yield back to our speaker.
Great, Barbara.
I'm Diana DeGette from Colorado, and I'm the co-chair of the Pro-Choice Caucus along with Barbara Lee. And I recently, last month, became a grandmother for the first time. And I was shocked to learn last week that my brand new little granddaughter will have fewer rights than I have or her mother has. And that is wrong, and that is un-American, and we are not going to let that happen. We are not going to go back, because every woman deserves the full range of health care, including abortion. Over 70% of Americans agree that the law of the land should be Roe versus Wade. And this blatantly political decision, assuming it comes down from the Supreme Court, will rip our personal freedoms away. And as Barbara and the speaker said, it's not going to stop there. It's going to go to birth control. It's going to go to marriage equality, and it's going to go to in vitro fertilization and other things we can't even imagine standing here. That's wrong, that's un-American, and we will not let that happen. We need to make Roe versus Wade the law of the land so that a woman in Alabama has the same right to health care as a woman in my state of Colorado. We can't have a two-part system, and we're not going to have it. Because I just want to say this. How can you tell a 12-year-old incest victim in Alabama that she can't have the health care that she deserves? How can you tell a woman in Texas who has 5 children and is working 3 jobs to feed them that she can't have the health care that she needs? And how can you tell a woman in Mississippi who has severe fetal deformities that she can't have the health care that she needs? We're not going to tell them that. We are going to work every day. We are going to work every way to make sure everybody in this country has the health care that they need. As you heard, the House has acted. We passed Judy Chu's Women's Health Protection Act to put Roe versus Wade into law. So what's the answer? The answer is everybody in this country has to mobilize today, tomorrow, next week, and in November to make sure we keep a pro-choice majority in the House, that we have a pro-choice majority in the Senate, and that we protect everybody's right to health care. Because as our dear friend and our soulmate John Lewis said, never give up and never give in, and we are not going to. We're going to fight every day. Thank you.
I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, the sponsor of the Women's Health Protection Act. Last week, a bomb was dropped on all of us when we learned that there was a draft decision showing 5 Supreme Court justices would overturn Roe versus Wade, ripping away rights from millions of women. When I first read it, I was angry. I was appalled. I was heartbroken. But I was not shocked, because Republicans have been telling the American people that they plan to overturn this decision for decades. I thought about the millions of women whose rights would be taken away from them. I thought about the 13-year-old victim of rape who could not get an abortion. I thought about the woman with an ectopic pregnancy whose life would be threatened who could not get an abortion. I thought about the woman with multiple children facing a devastating financial crisis who could not get an abortion. And I thought about how desperate they must feel in this situation. But thanks to Speaker Pelosi, we, the House Democrats, did our job. We passed my bill, the Women's Health Protection Act, in September by a vote of 218 to 211. It was the most supported abortion rights bill in the history of Congress. And we have the strong support of President Biden. So we just needed the Senate. Thankfully, Leader Schumer quickly scheduled a vote. Going into it, we knew the numbers were against us, but we also knew how important this fight was and how many people were clamoring for action. So I want to thank our organizer, CPC Chair Pramila Jayapal, who led this march, and everyone joined as we went across the Capitol. We were loud, we were forceful, and we piled into the Senate gallery to show our support for the senators that voted for the bill. Even though Senator Manchin did not join, all of the other 49 Senate Democrats did. I also want to talk about the 2 so-called pro-choice Republicans who voted against WIPA because they said our bill goes too far. Well, that's not true. It does exactly what we need it to do, uphold Roe versus Wade. But you know what goes too far? It's the actual Republican agenda to completely outlaw abortion in every state of the union. Yeah, a federal ban. And that is why people are galvanized. That is why people are marching. This is not the end of the process. This is the beginning. It's the beginning of the march towards the November elections.
I'm Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, and first I want to thank Speaker Pelosi for sounding the alarm on Republican attempts to do away with reproductive rights in America. Think about it. The draft Supreme Court decision to roll back Roe reverses 49 years of precedent. It defies the precedent of precedent itself, a cornerstone of the Supreme Court. This is a Republican minority that has worked for decades to restrict, to roll backwards the rights of women. A minority that has worked systematically to politicize the court by packing it with activist ideologues. And this minority now seeks to use this very decision to take women backwards to a very dark time in history. It's time to take America forward again. In 1992, I announced my run for Congress on the day that Planned Parenthood versus Casey decision came down, putting new restrictions on a woman's right to choose because I wanted equal rights for women and more pro-choice legislators, more pro-choice votes in Congress, and that's what we need to protect a woman's right to choose. This week, with my colleagues, we marched to the Senate to urge them to pass the Women's Health Protection Act like we passed in the House. Rolling back Roe lays the groundwork for the court to also take us backward on fundamental rights like access to contraception and marriage equality. We need to take America forward, not backwards. Let's be clear. Abortion bans have the most harmful effects on people of color, the LGBTQ community, young people, and low-income Americans will suffer the most. Let this be a wake-up call. We are not defeated. We will not go backwards. There is no democracy if women cannot make choices about their own bodies, that half the population cannot make choices about their health care. I am proud to stand with my Democratic colleagues and with our Speaker. We are united in our resolve to defend abortion rights in this country with our like-minded men and women, and it's time to take America forward again. Thank you.
Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone. My name is Veronica Escobar, and I represent the great community of El Paso, Texas. Madam Speaker, thank you for your strong, steady, principled leadership. To my fierce pro-choice colleagues, thank you for your great vision for America. I want to speak directly to the American people. We have seen very clearly what Republicans' vision for America is, and it is a very dark vision. In the radical rights vision for America, we stand to lose access to freedoms and fundamental civil rights. They have made that clear. They have told us who they are, and they have shown us what they want. This is the same Republican Party, mind you, that votes at every turn against women and families. It's the same Republican Party that votes against an expanded child tax credit. It's the same Republican Party that votes against paid family and medical leave so that mamas can be home with their babies. This is the same Republican Party that votes against access to child care so that mamas can provide for those babies. And this is the same Republican Party that votes against universal pre-K so that those babies have a fighting chance. So make no mistake about it. This is the party that stands for American families and women. And to the American people, as you know, it doesn't end here. As my colleagues have mentioned, they are going after you in every which way they can. And for women who think that they might still have access to reproductive freedom somehow, some way, just know, as the speaker mentioned, not only are they trying to ban this nationwide, but there are Republican legislators clamoring to criminalize abortion. Look to El Salvador and what's happening there to women. Women imprisoned because they are so desperate that they seek reproductive freedom even though it is against the law. A woman imprisoned for 30 years. You think it can't happen here? As I said, they have shown us who they are. They have shown us their vision. And women and men across this country need to act with us. You only need to look to this House of Representatives to know what the Democratic vision is for America. And it means we help take care of you and protect you in times of need. It means we grant you access to the freedoms that generations before you have fought for. It means that we will stand with you, not against you. And so if this is your vision, we need you in November and every single day as we march to the polls and we expand our majority and we expand that majority over there. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I thank our distinguished leaders on this subject and so many more gathered on the steps of the Capitol. When the Republican senators say that the Judy Chu legislation goes too far, what they are doing is rejecting the precedent of the Supreme Court, the precedents of the Supreme Court. The Judy Chu legislation enshrines Roe v. Wade, a decision of the court, and Casey into the law. So that isn't going too far. So Judy Chu, thank you for your courageous leadership, and to our colleagues, thank you. Now, as we go into vote, and we're so happy that the weather cooperated, this is a start for this weekend across the country. People will be gathering in their communities, and some of them are here today. All above all, American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, Catholics for Choice, Center for Reproductive Rights, NARAL Pro-Choice America, National Association of Pacific American Women's Forum, National Council of Jewish Women, National Partnership for Women and Families, National Women's Law Center, Physicians for Reproductive Health, Planned Parenthood, Population Action, Sister Song, and URGE, Unite for Reproductive and Gender Equality. To the Supreme Court, to the Republicans in Congress, to state governments across the country, we want you to know we fully intend to protect Roe v. Wade, and we will be doing it every single day to protect those who seek care and those who provide care. Are we ready for this fight? I thought so. Now we have to go vote. Thank you all very much.